Hey guys, what's up? It's Charlie here, and today we're going to be looking at 10 secrets of North Korean women. We all know that North Korea is not a nice place to live, but it's even worse for women. However, there are some surprising secret facts about life as a woman in North Korea. But before we get into them, be sure to subscribe and press the notification bell too. Coming in at number 10, we have trapping. So, trapping is a crazy thing that North Korea does, and it's the way they earn money. What they do is send women over to China, Japan, and South Korea. They send them to be translators or assistants to wealthy businessmen, but while they're working over there, they seduce the businessmen. Once they get pregnant, they blackmail the businessmen to invest in North Korea, and they also tell the businessmen to speak well of North Korea at conferences and other places. This is the way the country earns a lot of money, and it's a technique known as honeypotting. As soon as the kid of the North Korean woman and businessman is born, it's whisked away. It then has to live away from any other North Korean citizens. This is because they don't want their secrets to be revealed to their citizens. Then their fathers from other countries can either visit or even move to North Korea, but those kids' jobs have already been decided. Because of their dads, these kids will look Chinese, Japanese, or South Korean. Because of this, North Korea can now use these kids as spies, and that's what they do. It's pretty crazy that this happens in North Korea, and it's not often reported, but there have been many cases of wealthy and powerful businessmen in other countries being honeypotted by North Korean women. It sounds like some kind of movie, but it's been going on since Kim Jong-Un and still goes on today. Next up is cosmetics. In North Korea, cosmetics are scarce. The problem with this is North Korean women are expected to look really good, but they have a hard time achieving this with North Korean cosmetics. North Korean cosmetics aren't very good at all, and there's not many of them. However, South Korea has a multi-billion-dollar cosmetics industry. Because of this, many North Korean women actually use South Korean cosmetics smuggled into the country. There's a massive punishment for being caught with these. That is because North Korea despises South Korea and doesn't want to help boost their economy. But for many women, it's worth it. They actually risk going to prison camps simply to wear makeup. Makeup from China is also brought into the country, but North Korean women love South Korean makeup the most. In fact, they're known to buy it no matter what brand it is. As long as it's South Korean, North Korean women love it. Just imagine spending life in prison simply for buying some makeup. Next up is crying. So, everybody cries. We may cry when we're having a bad day or when a loved one passes away. But you won't see many people crying if the leader of their country passes away. Well, in North Korea, you have no choice, especially if you're a woman. For example, when Kim Jong-il died, a week of national mourning was announced. This meant that for an entire week, all North Korean citizens had to cry all the time. And this was especially true for women. Some men did have to work and could stop crying, but women had to keep crying forever. Imagine crying for an entire week. That's enough to make me, well, cry. When the images of this were shared around the world, many asked if they were really crying or if they were just acting. The reality is some women really are sad, as they're made to think their leader is like a god. However, I'm sure some of them simply put it on. You see, if you're seen not crying, you're sent to a prison camp. This is because it makes you look non-devout to the country or your leader. So I guess crying for a week straight is a small price to pay for not going to a prison camp. Next up is military service. So, there are over 500,000 women in North Korea's army, and Kim Jong-un often likes to brag about this. But in reality, that's because it's compulsory for everyone, including women, to be in the army. Women have to be in the army for 7 years of their life. However, these women are pretty much only trained to march. They're not trained in combat skills like men are. And while they're in the army, the male generals mistreat them a lot. Not only that, many of these female soldiers get incredibly hungry. That is because North Korea can't afford to properly feed all of its soldiers. They prioritize the male soldiers because more photos of them are taken. You see, they want people around the world to think they have enough food, when in reality they don't have enough food to feed their own army. The only upside to being a female soldier in the North Korean army is it's easy to escape, or at least easier than being a regular citizen. Because you're in the army for 7 years, this means you're often near borders and have a lot of time to plan an escape. This is also the reason why most North Korean defectors are female. But the strange thing about it is, all these North Korean soldiers think it's normal. It's all they've ever grown up with, and they assume every woman is treated this way. And when defectors go to other countries such as China or South Korea, they're often shocked and amazed at how women are treated. Next up is plastic surgery. So, this is a fairly new privilege North Korean women are allowed. And it was actually Kim Jong-un who introduced this. We know from before that North Korean women are made to look good. They love South Korean makeup because they like South Korean looks. But you can only do so much with cosmetics. That is why some North Korean women get plastic surgery to look more South Korean. One of the most popular things they do is get eyebrow tattoos. There aren't many salons to get your eyebrows done at. And even if there were, many North Koreans are too poor to afford something like that. So instead, they simply get a one-time tattoo of the perfect eyebrows. And another very popular surgery is called double eyelid surgery. This is to make their eyes look less Asian and more Western. It's kind of surprising this is allowed, seeing as Kim Jong-un hates the West. But being in North Korea, there's a catch to all of these surgeries. That catch is, there aren't any plastic surgeons in North Korea. This means many North Koreans have to get it done at home. They either get somebody who's not very well trained or not trained at all to do it, or some women even do it to themselves. This results in a lot of infections and surgeries gone wrong. You could seriously do an entire episode of Botched only in North Korea, but because of the pressures put on North Korean women about their looks, they do this despite the danger. Next up is haircuts. So, despite plastic surgery being allowed, it's pretty odd that North Korean women can't get the haircut they want. North Korean women actually have to pick from a sheet of different haircuts. That's right, even women's haircuts are controlled by the state. Now, they do get more choice than men. However, most North Korean women's haircuts are pretty short. They rarely go below the shoulders. And the punishment for having the wrong haircut can be going to a prison camp. The funny thing is, the only woman who breaks this rule is Kim Jong-Un's wife. If you want to find out more about her, I have an entire video all about her. Next up is education. Most women in North Korea get barely any education. There are some schools in North Korea, however only rich and powerful people go to them. For example, children of businessmen or politicians. The average Joe's kids will not get any education and go straight into work. But even for those who do get an education, it's not great. The schools aren't very good and often don't have food. The computers are years behind and they're not really taught anything useful. Instead of being taught facts, they're simply taught propaganda. They learn things like why North Korea is the best country in the world and why America is evil. But I suppose that information could come in useful in not going to a prison camp. Next up is work. So if you ask a kindergarten student what they want to be when they grow up, they'll likely say the president or an astronaut. Adults encourage this, but don't assume kids will have the same jobs they wanted in kindergarten. Well, in North Korea, your job is actually decided for you in kindergarten. When kids are in kindergarten, they're assigned jobs. 90% of the time for women, this involves factory work. Women are made to work until they're around 70 or 80 years old. However, most don't actually live that long. The worst part about it is, these women are not even paid. They simply get rations handed down by the government for working in factories. Now, despite their jobs being decided for them in kindergarten, they're not told this. Instead, they're all told they're going to be medical doctors, teachers, or astronauts. But this is all propaganda to motivate the kids, and when they're adults, they're made to work in factories. Next up is role models. So you may think that in North Korea, women have no female role models. Well, that is where you would be wrong. Some women in North Korea are successful and are big role models to North Korean women. Now, this may not be for the right reasons, but still, it's a sign of hope. One female role model would be Ri Sol-ju. This is Kim Jong-Un's wife. She's a role model because she wants to move things forward for women. She's already made it so that women can ride bikes, among other things that we'll get into later. And another role model for women is called Ri Chun-hee. Ri is the over-enthusiastic North Korean TV anchor. She announces news, rocket launches, and other North Korean propaganda. Now, of course, this is all propaganda, but still, she's very well known and is kind of a celebrity in North Korea. She is known for her dramatic and aggressive tone and pink clothing. And she's a role model in the sense that she provides every North Korean with information, albeit propaganda. Next up is a changing time. So, from this video, it's not hard to see that North Korea is not a nice place for women. However, this is slowly changing. We must remember that even in America, women's rights are a fairly new thing, and North Korea is always years behind. So maybe in 50 to 100 years, North Korean women will have the same rights as American women today. Some of the schools are already merging boys and girls, and the number of women majoring in medicine, biology, and foreign languages is increasing. Not only that, with women like Kim Jong-un's spouse Ri Sol-ju around, things will get better. She's already made women's cycling legal, and she's also made the rules on what women are allowed to wear more relaxed. According to many insiders, she's great at calming Kim Jong-un down. So who knows, perhaps there'll be a brighter future for women in North Korea. It's definitely easy to feel bad for these North Korean women. And don't get me wrong, I definitely do. But the odd thing is, these women don't even feel bad for themselves. This is because in North Korea, it's seen as normal to them. Ever since you're a young girl, you assume this is how the rest of the world is. Of course, in pretty much any other country, this would be absolutely outrageous. But North Korean women don't know this, and that's why they're seen as happy in some photos. I'm not saying all North Korean women have a terrible life. For example, I'm sure Kim Jong-un's wife has a pretty good life. But it's still important we remember that some women around the world don't have the same rights as women in the USA. Check out the poll in the top right corner to vote for the craziest fact about women in North Korea. I think the craziest fact is honeypotting. That is such a ridiculous scheme, and I can't believe it really does work and brings in millions for the North Korean economy. And be sure to check out my second channel too. There'll be a link on screen for that in a minute, so be sure to click it and give it a watch.